welcome to the ADK channel. I'm of course Dave, and of course we have our lovely Kirk with us. No, unfortunately there is no Andy today, but what we do have with us is we have Boris and we have Raphael from the wonderful band Detraktor.
Now the time has come. Apex. Full body stop.
Welcome to the channel.
Thank you very much.
We are going to take you through a few questions that we have. I know Kirk, with his encyclopedia of knowledge, is going to take you down some deep and dark rabbit hole routes that he loves, but I'm going to kick it off with something nice and simple, which is the name Detraktor. We want to find out where the name came from, but also a little bit, if you could give us a bit of a history of how the band came together, and any kind of significant changes that have happened since you kind of started.
All right, Boris, you go first, and then I explain the name. It's my turn.
Yeah.
So you said how we met and how we started. I think that would be cool.
Yeah, cool. Well, as a band, we started off 2016, something like this. So basically, we are not Germans. We don't live in Germany. Well, we live in Germany, but we're not Germans. We're not from here. So we kind of all met here in a very, very early hour in the morning. Everybody was obviously sober, and then we decided to make a band. We got together. It took about 8 months before we wrote our first song, and since then we started spitting out stuff. So we have the first demo came out. With that demo, it was a completely different lineup back then. We applied for the Wacken Metal Battle at some point the next year, and then we got that, and then we went to Wacken, and it was great. And since then it's been uphill. We got together a couple of years later. We got together with Dirk, the bassist of Gamma Ray. He helped us out a ton, and then we produced the second EP with him. And then, you know, that's all fine and dandy, but we had to put our name on the map, so to speak. So we got ourselves a nice little label, and we released our first album called Grinder. That was 2019, I think. Yeah, something like that, September. It was a great album, really well received and everything, and we really were eager to tour. Literally a couple months later, bam, Corona. So we did a total of like 3 shows, I think, for that album. And yeah, and then we were frozen. It sucked very much, and everything had to be put on pause. But then we kind of took a deep, long look at ourselves, and we evaluated a lot who we're dealing with within the band, and all the, you know, after several years of being a band and everything, we had developed our own internal issues and stuff. So at some point we just decided, fuck it, we have to clean up the band if we want to move up. And we just did that. So Corona started, gave us a lot of time to think, a lot of time to act. We acted, we thought, and then at some point 2 years later we had an album, and this was Full Body Stomp. So unfortunately we couldn't release it under our first label because the owner, rest in peace, he passed away. So we had to switch, and then Massacre took us. So we released it under Massacre, and then since then it's been a hell of a ride. We've been kind of like, this is exactly kind of what we were looking for. After so much time of waiting and so much time of thinking of exactly how we wanted to do this, this was literally exactly what we were hoping for. So here we are.
Okay, and so Raphael, what's the band? How did the band name come out then?
Watch now, he's gonna mess this up because we've been practicing this. Like what?
No, okay. The most important thing about the name for us, since we have such a different backgrounds. Like I was from Chile. This man, can I curse? Maybe not.
Of course, go for it.
Okay.
I think I already did.
Okay, I already fucked it up. You see. Boris was from Canada, half Canada, half Bulgaria. At the moment, we have a Brazilian guy in the band. we were living in Germany, so the first, at least the most important thing for us was that the name sounded good in all those languages. I don't know what you guys think, such as being native English, but we did some questions there, here and there, and most people said that it sounded cool. Now the Detraktor comes from, we thought that tractor sounded heavy and aggressive, like the what we were looking for, you know, and the D, came from. You see, I already messed it up. Detraktor as a Detraktor, you know, with the TH it was gonna be too obvious, and then we figure out with D, it's with the D, you know, it's a word. Detractor is like somebody's against an idea, right?
You sound like a hardcore band, don't you, with that name, Detraktor?
Exactly, and the Easter egg is like DE is the short for Germany, Deutschland. So it worked for all the languages. I hope. Yeah. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
I think it's very interesting when you ask about people about what they think about names, because when I can't remember the exact reason, Kirk, why Detraktor's album was the one that got picked. But basically, we each got to pick each time we met one album to review. And we get this long list of bands to go through. And I remember, I think I called Detraktor out on my list.
Because it wasn't on my. I'm not on the mailing list for Massacre Records, so it's only through you, Dave.
It was loud. It was actually on the Loudwire release. So I go on like the Loudwire site, and they have all the releases for that week. And I just went. It was actually the full body stomp bit. I was like, yeah, okay, that sounds interesting, because my passion is more Pantera, groove metal. So I just went full body stomp, and I was like, yeah, that's gonna sounds like something I'm gonna like. I'm not a massive like death metal or doom fan. I know Kirk, you and Andy are more kind of that extremer end.
I mean, my first love is thrash, to be honest. You know, in the extreme metal genres. Thrash and then death metal. So yeah, when you said that it's Dave, didn't you said to me, oh, this is a bit like Fear Factory, but thrash metal.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sure I'll like this.
I mean, when we talk, and we'll talk a little bit about it, because actually that you've covered a few of our questions already in that first opening statement, which is it's great, but it now means we've got very few questions to ask you, unfortunately. But you obviously talked about lockdown, and I went back and I was listening to Size Matters EP and the Grinder LP, and what I kind of got from your first EP and your LP was very much thrash driven, elements of death in there. Grinder had melodic death undertones, like the In Flames elements were coming through in there, so you could kind of hear where you came from there. When we got to Full Body Stomp, I remember listening to I think it was Bear Fight, and I started just reeling off like Fear Factory, Sepultura, Machine Head, and I could hear almost every kind of influence of different groove industrial metal band from the 90s to early 2000s that I kind of loved. And that's why I remember, I think I texted Kirk going, dude, you've got to listen to this album. My God, this is heavy. This is so cool. It was definitely one of the first times we've done an album review that I've actually messaged Kirk and gone, yeah, dude, you got to check this out soon. Yeah. This is crazy.
And I sent him a text back that just said, Detraktor, ! Detraktor, ! Detraktor, all in capital letters tonight.
Sorry, go on.
Sorry, no. What I wanted to say around, so with Full Body Stomp, there was obviously a significant change going from 2019's Grinder, and obviously one of the questions I was going to ask was about lockdown, and we've seen a lot of bands have that 2-year period from 2020 to 2022 where albums suddenly all stopped. No one released anything, no one did anything, because there was nowhere to do a tour cycle on the back of it. There was no way to promote an album, so a lot of bands went back into the studio or did remote working. They were all just jamming in their own houses and sending ideas around. But there was for me, there was a significant stylization change from Grinder to Full Body Stomp. Now, was that something that you actively sat down and went, do you know what, we want to try and do something a bit different on the next album?
Yeah, kind of. So we we always wanted to do this. We always wanted to slow down and groove it up. But I think before we went through the lineup change and before we cleaned up our act, we just couldn't get there. We were kind of there was a lot of other factors, obviously, but this is kind of exactly what we've always wanted to do. But the thing with Grinder was that most of the songs on that album we had already played live before we actually recorded them, and it worked, and we decided, fuck it, let's just make an album out of it. And of course the other songs got added, and it was cool, but it was a lot, the other members of the band also had an influence over the writing of the album somehow. And when we went through all these changes, we sat down and we really said, okay, we want to make a heavy album, and we want to make it good, like not rush elements, and just because it's thrash metal it's good or something like this. Like, let's think about it a little bit. And we started jamming and we started coming up with ideas, and this was like the main theme of the album. It's like, this is what came out literally out of nothing. Because of Corona, we couldn't all meet at the same time. There were all these restrictions and whatever, so we got a lot of time to try out different things. And at the end, this was the dominant thing. It was just, let's slow it down, but make it heavy. You don't have to be fast, and you don't have to be weird and extreme to sound good. And we really wanted to try it. We've always wanted to try that. This was the shit that worked live, like the heavy headbanging parts. This was the most epic feeling that you got live. And we're like, yeah, why aren't we doing more of this? Why do we have to show off at 1,000 beats per minute with, like, nobody can tell what we're playing anyway? So might as well. That's what came out. Literally, that was the natural thing. Like, we didn't feel the need that we have to be on speed all the time.
Kirk, over to you.
Yeah, I'm pleased that we've now reached this point of the interview, because I was, when I heard it, I'm a big fan. Do you remember they're still going, that New York industrial thrash band Prong? Yeah. One of my all-time favorites. And I love their 1994 album Cleansing. And metal music in the 90s, that offered hope. This is where thrash metal was going. And then new metal came in and took over, and it never really developed. So when I heard Full Body Stomp, I was like, this is what could have happened, if other bands had continued doing it. And I should let our viewers make them aware that there's really nothing derivative about the Detraktor sound. You don't just sound like a 90s thrash band. But it was refreshing when I heard it, because it was like, every other thrash band is either, shall we do the Municipal Waste and, just all on a Anthrax and Megadeth, which is fine. I enjoy that. And then you get the other side where they're going in a bit more of a discordant, almost death metal route. So was it conscious? Do you think, me and Dave think that you've brought in industrial elements? Would you agree on that? Is that something that you consciously did? Like Godflesh type sound?
Well, I think that it's there is definitely an influence on it. I remember listening a lot of Fear Factory back in the day, playing video games. But it's really super interesting what you said about that. Like, what would have happened if that style developed a bit more? I never thought about that actually. But yeah, I don't know, Boris, what you can add there. Thanks for the comments.
You'll be there if we need you. No, we didn't explicitly go looking for it. So new metal, I think early new metal is cool. So when Korn started, they just massive grooves with extremely like headbanging attitude, and we liked that. I mean, to be fair, we don't like to compare like specific genres. So if something sounds heavy and groovy, let's just take it. We didn't explicitly go looking for a genre or a direction. It's just that's what we enjoy listening to every day anyway. So it kind of just happened. And in industrial, not really. it just, that's what came out. We didn't really say, okay, let's make industrial elements. It just, the riffs were similar, and it just happened.
Yeah, because you know, another thing I liked about it, when you listen to most thrash metal, there's 12 riffs in every song, and it seems like you've deliberately thought, no, we're going to have 5-6 riffs, and they're going to be colossal, you know, really chunky and good groove and technical. Because track number 2, there's a clear death metal still, like tremolo type riff that you have at the beginning, which just, when I heard that, I was like, wow, this is my type of extreme metal. And is that something then that you consciously thought, okay, if we're going to slow it down a bit, let's also not give too much, you know, overkill in the riffs? That's what I liked about it. I can remember almost every one from the album as a result. Was that a deliberate thing?
Maybe also, I think I always been a fan of understanding what I'm listening in live situations as an audience. maybe that could have influenced a bit. But also to add to what you said, we changed drummers, and the new drummer, he came with he's a lot deeper drummer than the one before. The one before was more about having small toms and really to show everything, and suddenly we have this death metal drummer who is an expert on double pedal kick, and he came with these huge toms, so the whole sound kind of went deeper and it went simpler. And by simpler, I don't mean cheapest or easier, you know. And I think that all kind of combined. And also we tried different tuning this time with our songs. We tried songs in different tuning that they were working really, really awesome with this new heavy and deep sound, at least. Yeah.
And there is definitely the more Swedish influence in a lot of the parts, where, because Pablo is so much more death metal, he played with Undercroft and whatnot, and you know, we had to tell him no blast beats and stuff, but like like he does bring a certain level of groove, you know. Obviously the drums are like the biggest thing in the band, so it's he did bring a certain direction that we also merged together. It wasn't just like we came in and said, this is Detraktor, you have to adapt. We let him as part of the band, really, to where he can also bring his influences and opinions, and that's kind of the direction we went. Is a little bit the you know, the entombed way, the death metal-y part that's not so much thrash as it was before.
Yeah, is that, I noticed you covered Undercroft, didn't you, on the album? Was that your idea, to, because you were so impressed with Pablo Cortez, who obviously, you know, he's been playing for decades, hasn't he, in the death thrash scene in South America and in Europe? Was that did you do that to welcome him in the band, saying, oh, we'll cover a song from 2002, that, you know, from one of your albums?
Yeah, that's a better explanation than we didn't have enough songs. Let's just go with that.
Do you want us to edit this part out of the video, the honesty part?
No, we've been friends with him and the Undercroft guys for a while, and we've played, like, our first show was with Alvaro, who is now in Vatain, but he was the front man of Undercroft. So he played bass for us for our first show. We've been associated with Pablo's studio and everything. We recorded Grinder there. We've been there several times and so on. We know the guys. Pablo obviously joining is not a spontaneous thing. We've been his friends and we've used him. I mean, you know, contributed with, we collaborated with for a long time. So it was kind of a natural thing. And we are fans of Undercroft. We like that band, we like their music, and this was literally, Rafa came up to me and he's like, okay, we're doing a cover of this song because this is literally Detraktor riffs. So it was a spontaneous thing that we said, okay, let's just pick that song because it's the best one, but we always wanted to do something with it. We always wanted to think some collaboration with Undercroft. And funnily enough, last Saturday we did a show with the final member of Undercroft who we hadn't played with. So now officially we can cross off that list. We've completely assimilated that band into Detraktor. But no, they're friends of ours, and we always liked them and we always loved their music, so why not? And that song, we figured let's do it even more special and invite Dirk from Warpath. That would just add like the cherry on top. We thought that song is now Detraktorized fully. Let's put it on the album.
Yeah, I noticed that you seem to have had a rule in the band that you could only have a bass player who was in Undercroft playing for you live. You've had 2 members of Undercroft do that. My next question though is, Dave mentioned 2019 and COVID, but there's been a big development in your career, haven't you? A real step up, because you've landed a contract with Massacre Records, and you know they're famous for Agatha Diamond, Crematory, Dark A, and I've reviewed a lot of those bands. Most of them have moved on, haven't they, to other labels? But can you tell us how you managed to secure that deal with Massacre Records? That's a big development in any band's career, isn't it?
Yeah.
Go ahead. You know more of the story, man. Go ahead. I listen to you. I judge you from here. Go on.
Okay, no problem. Do I know the story? Am I aware? Do they know that we're with them? I don't know. So we wanted Massacre for a while. Our friends are there, so we are close with Warpath. We are close with Disbelief. We're also back. I think was it like Navigator or Sick or something. One of the albums was with them as well, and they're from Hamburg. And we kind of like circled around them for some years, but we were not really grown up enough to be there yet. So we needed something first, which was Violent Creek. Bauke was awesome to welcome us. He gave us a huge boost and chances, and he supported us all the way. And we needed some experience to be part of Massacre, but we were pestering them for years. And everybody around them and LinkedIn is like, hey, come on, mention something, just Detraktor, come on, put that name there. At the end of the day, we pushed for it, and they were generous enough to give us the chance. And this was a deal that was in the making for some months, and finally, I think early 2022, like end of 21, 22, this is where we finalized the things, and yeah, I think it was about time. Like it was the right time, the right place, but we were really working hard to get there to that right place and right time, and we really pushed for it. Massacre was on our radar. I know that they knew about us. It was just we needed some time to get there, and this was definitely the logical step to get there.
Yeah, it's very much, Massacre's very much like Peaceful Records in England, isn't it? It's this legendary name that's famous for really discovering bands that go on to be very influential. Often they get scooped up by even bigger labels, don't they? So I can see why you'd certainly want to be on that roster, because it's such a prestigious name. The other thing that I was going to ask though before I hand you back to Dave was, Raphael, you might be able to help me with this. So if you look at, clearly, Undercroft, they moved famously, didn't they, from Chile to Sweden and then on to Hamburg. How big is that pool of musicians from Chile and wider South America in Germany? Because that's clearly a big part of Detraktor, isn't it? That's where a lot of your band members come from.
So you mean, can you rephrase it, please? I got lost a bit at the end. Like Undercroft, yeah, they're from Chile. They jumped to Sweden. Now they live in Germany.
Yeah, I suppose my question is then, what is so special about Hamburg? Why is that a good place, for people to relocate metal musicians from Latin America to Hamburg?
Well, that's a very good question. If you ask me as a Chilean, I moved to Germany 6 years ago, and it's always Germany when it comes to metalheads. At least there, it's like, with the big festivals, and you see them on streaming at 4 a.m. with friends. Oh, Germany has such a huge industry in metal, and wow, it's like the Mecca, so it's always Germany. Now to be honest, I fell into Hamburg for other reasons, and I'm glad I did, you know. But I think for with respect to for the other guys is because Hamburg have this special vibe, I guess, you know, being a northern city. Is super welcoming with people from outside, and most of the metal, I think if I'm wrong, you can correct me. I think most of the metal is in the north area or in the where Essen is, the Ruhrpott area, you know. And I remember I got a feedback once, like try to avoid going too much to the south because you know the music there is totally different. It's more folklore, whatever. And yeah, in the north of Germany, metal, of course, a lot of bands come from Hamburg, and also, well, that's another topic, the industrial music, you know, which is Berlin and anything. I think that's what makes Hamburg so attractive, and I guess I fell in love with it, especially with how the night develops in Hamburg. Like you go out to have a random beer. That's how I met Boris in 2016. We were just wasted, and I came here to look for a band, and then. So it has this charisma in the air, if I may say it, and also it's super close to Wacken, and I guess it's like it's the option where you have to go. I mean,
I think that's a big point.
Yeah.
Because Wacken is like coming from outside of Germany. There's only a few things you know about Germany, you know, and Wacken is one of those things. And just Hamburg is literally the city of Wacken. Let's get serious. It's like 50 kilometers away, and it's a thing here. It's not just Wacken and everybody goes to Wacken. It's like a whole week of stuff, and every band that lives in the area has a realistic chance to go there. And to be somewhere from the outside, and you look at all these bands at Wacken, and you're like, what the fuck? How do you play in front of 100,000 people? And just being here, and then you actually start to be part of the scene and part of these people, and but not just as a fan, but like actual connections. And then it's like, wow, you cannot get there anywhere else in Germany. It's like you're right next door, and that comes with privileges.
Yeah, it has like a cluster effect, doesn't it? Like you say, you were able to get on the on the radar of Massacre Records as well, weren't you? And Dave, we've got something equivalent here, haven't we? I'm sure you've heard of the Bloodstock Festival.
Of course, yeah.
So do you know how you said that? Exactly. I think Wacken is far bigger and better, in my opinion, because it's like a career-defining highlight, even for the huge metal bands, isn't it? To headline Wacken is as good as it gets. But we're involved in something like a Battle of the Bands. You said that you first entered the Wacken Battle of the Bands, and in England we have it. In Britain, different regions, and then the winner from each region will get to play Bloodstock on what's called the New Blood stage. So it sounds similar.
Yeah.
Wacken, does that? I mean, that raises your profile, sure, doesn't it? If you win that, you're well on the way. Is that correct?
This was huge for us. Not only like I mentioned, coming to Germany, you never could imagine. Like we've all had bands in our own respective countries, and we could never imagine like to play Wacken. This was, you know, you play the local club in front of 25 people, and it's like, yeah, right, Wacken one day, sure. But it was huge for us because this was also our first year as a band. That year was probably the most active year that we've ever had. It was like 30 shows or something like this, and Wacken was number 9. So for us, it was huge. We had one demo with 4 songs, and then we had like a 5th song just in case, you know. And it was not real. It somehow, you know, it set. I think it made us realize that it's possible, and it's made us realize that you can actually do something in Germany, and it's not after many years in other places and trying it, and you never really get anywhere. You always play the small clubs. This was kind of like eye-opening, and before Wacken it was Dong Opener, which sounds funny, but it's even better than funny. It's on a hill. It's not big. It's 5,000 people or something like this, but big bands play there as well. Iced Earth played there when we were there, so it was quite a big thing. And you getting there, the whole route of this Wacken metal battle, the whole way, it just makes you realize, like, shit, I can actually do this, and we have a chance. And we were against the bands that we played against in Hamburg, or it was like north and south of Germany, like there were 2 battles. the ones from the north that we played against, those were established bands. And for us, it was our first year. We were thinking, like, first of all, when we applied, like, no way. Like, we have barely a Bandcamp page, and that was it. And then they actually picked us, and we're like, okay, well, now we actually have to practice. And then we did that, and we were like, no way, we're gonna win. Some of the bands were even local from Hamburg. They were well established into their careers. They had like an album or two and fan base. And we looked at their Facebook page, was like 1,000 people who has that, you know? And then that happened, and we're like, shit, now we actually have to play in a festival in front of like 2,000 people. Like, what is this? And then eventually it built up to there. But every step of the way was just mind blowing. And yeah, it changed our career for sure, because then after that we got a tour. We got to play with Warpath and Disbelief. That's where we actually met those guys. They became really good friends of ours. We played with bands like Hyrax and Sinestro from like Sweden and stuff, and we just started exploring different things, and then we met a whole bunch of people in the industry because of that. Metal Hammer being one of the magazines that kind of picked us up, and they made us newcomer of the month or some shit like that in their magazine back then. And it was definitely, it came with a lot of pluses. And yeah, we didn't win the whole fucking metal battle, like the worldwide thing, but who cares, man?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It shows you what you can achieve, so to speak. Like this was a glimpse of, if you work hard and you keep going, it shows you what you can get, and it's amazing. And I'm pretty sure that the experience there in the UK is the same with the Bloodstock Festival, right?
Yeah, definitely. You don't have to win it to go on and progress in your career, as you pointed out there. There's a really top progressive metal band in this country called Luna's Call. You might have heard them. They're on that French record label, Listenable Records. And I don't think they even won, Dave. I don't think they won the Welsh region, but they've really kicked on. So yeah, it's not about winning it. It's about the contacts and the experience. And look where you guys are now. You've really shown other bands, haven't you? I think that's the lesson here. Raphael, you moved to Germany. You want to find a metal band to play in. You meet Boris, both of you are drunk in the early hours of this bar in Hamburg, and a year later, you're competing in the world famous Battle of the Bands, probably the most famous Battle of the Bands in metal, isn't it? So that's absolutely great to see, and I hope that gives impetus and courage to other bands. Whether you're in Germany or any country, get out there and do it. And you definitely prove that. So Dave, I'm going to hand over to you. Let's wrap this up.
So I've just got two final questions for the guys. I'm going to kind of take us one back to talk about Full Body Stomp for 1 point.
Sure.
Which was because it's interesting. While Kirk was talking about some stuff, I went back and read my review notes of the album, and there was just one bit that we got to, which I thought it'd be really interesting just to touch base on. So the album kind of steamrolls through with some great sludgy guitar riffs. There's some power metal elements in there. We had a swing groove beat on a couple of tracks, and then we get to the track Revenge with the Spanish style guitar, which just kind of, both me and Kirk were just like, where the hell did this come from? So where did the idea of the Spanish guitar, I even wrote things like Arabian Nights, going into an interesting driving groove. It's such a change of direction on the album. As you're listening to it track by track, that suddenly just comes out and go out of nowhere. Where did it come from? Who came up with the idea? What was the thought process on that one?
Damn, I need to remember.
Obviously, wasn't it?
It was that memorable.
Since I moved to Germany, I always wanted to have an acoustic guitar, and my lovely wife gave me one for my birthday. I remember that, and I always thought that I would use it at some point. Now this song became jamming between us three, doing song, and this super epic riff came out, and then we start building the song. Then we started a theme, which is, some people have said that it sounds like a Western kind of. And then when we have pretty much all the song, we said, oh man, this song maybe needs a really good intro that could also serve as an intro for our shows, which we haven't used it yet. but
We did once.
yeah, we used it once. You're right, and it doesn't work. But I think we started playing with the notes, the same notes of the following riff with the guitar, and it fitted. And then with the feedback, I think it was Pablo said, let's do it longer, and then we add more stuff, and I think that's it, man. It was super spontaneous, to be honest, man. And we like it, everybody likes it, and we might do it again in the future.
No, it definitely stood out for us. It was such a nice change of direction as well, because one thing we would talk about is that the songs were all really good, powerful, and it needed, at that point in the album, it needed something to do a little bit of a change of direction rather than kind of hit another groove metal track to follow in. So it worked really, really well.
Cool.
Okay, my final question. Kirk didn't know about this question, so sorry, Kirk, but it's something I've just started doing, asking people. So, Boris and Raphael, Pantera reunion. What is your thoughts on this?
Who goes first?
Wait, so depends if this is going live. So no, I'm just kidding. As an official video, I would like to apply for support band for the Pantera reunion. I think we have a lot of elements in common. So if anybody pays attention to my comment here, please take us. Zakk Wylde is the perfect fit, obviously. I mean, I don't think anybody else can, not just forget guitar playing, just in general. He makes the most sense. It's weird, man. We live in an age of reunions, and every band has been doing that now. Like over the last 10 years, so many reunions popped up, and this one I think was the most anticipated one. At least in the world we live in, with the metal that we listen to, this one was the most obvious one. And I don't. It's great. Obviously, it's great. This scratches my nostalgic itch for like decades. And I hope it stays this way. I hope it stays a reunion that is extra special, and then it doesn't become 20 years of milking that cow, because this is a special thing that definitely needed to happen, and definitely is a good thing. And obviously the production is a really high level production, and they seem to be doing the most amazing job with this tour. But I don't want another Pantera band. I don't know if that makes sense. Like,
that was a very good political answer. You should go into politics, Boris.
It's out of all the other things.
Raphael, what did you think about the whole thing?
I loved it from the first minute. I knew it was gonna be Zakk Wylde. There was no other. But what I would like to say is, Pantera is one of these bands that it transcends the metal genre, the way I see it, or some friends that are not metalheads. Everybody knows Pantera, even if they're metalhead or not. So I think what this tour is doing is I love to see how the new generations are get to know even more about Pantera. You know, I'm always supportive when I see a little kid at shows, even if they're wearing a Slipknot shirt or a Korn shirt, because in Chile it was always like, it's posers, whatever. I don't care. If a kid wears a metal shirt, I'm there to support, and one band can be an opening for other bands are more extreme styles, so to speak. So I supported this Pantera thing. I discussed it a lot with Boris, of course. And and the last thing, pretty short, is I went to see Phil Anselmo with the Illegals here in Hamburg in Logo, and I was super disappointed of the local vocal performance. So I was scared about this, and now I must say, because I watched the videos and all my friends went to see Pantera there in Chile, and they sent me videos and stuff. The guy is singing really damn good. He's taking this shit seriously. He took it seriously, and I take my hat off because of this. he's nailing it. He sacrificed movement over performance. That's the way I see it so far. So that was my comment. Yeah,
I think generally from everything we've seen from their live performances, they've obviously put the work in to give the best possible show. And I think the camp is very much split within the audience of the Pantera fans that are Pantera fans who have never seen Pantera live, absolutely love this, and the Pantera fans that saw them in the 90s don't like it because in their head it's not Pantera because they've seen Pantera and it's not the same. And that seems to be the kind of split you're getting with the audiences. But it's very interesting to see how people are reacting to it because I've not seen come across a topic within the metal genre which has split people down the middle like this. There's been a few things that have come out and people have pretty much been like 80-90% behind something, but this seems to be almost 50-50. It's like Marmite, you either love it or you hate it. And that seems to be how things are at the moment with them. But very interesting answers, guys. There we go. So that is our interview with Detraktor. We'll put some information about them in the detailed description down below. Go check them out. Go check out their Bandcamp, etc. And of course their Facebook page. Go share them. Do give them some follows. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much to Boris. Thank you very much to Raphael, and of course for Kirk for joining in with me talking and asking all the more interesting questions than I did. But this is the ADK channel. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you on another video sometime very soon. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Oh,